My husband defended his mother over me every single time, so I stopped asking and started planning. The other woman in my marriage was his mother, and she won, until she didn't. My husband stole our savings. His mother stole my peace. They thought I was weak. They were wrong. 3 years of silence, one night of revenge. He never saw what was coming. I smiled, cooked his dinner, and kissed him goodnight. Then I destroyed his whole world while he slept. My name is Sarah, and if you are listening to me, I want you to understand one thing from the very beginning. I was not a bad person. I was a good wife, a loving daughter-in-law, a patient woman. But patience, as I learned, is just another word for being a doormat, and I got tired of wiping my feet on the way out of my own life. Let me start at the end, or maybe the middle. The moment everything shattered. It was a Tuesday, a boring, gray Tuesday in October. The leaves were falling off the trees in our backyard, and I was making a pot roast. That's what good wives do, right? They make pot roast on cold Tuesdays. My husband, Mark, was supposed to be home at 6. He came home at 5:30, which should have been a nice surprise, but he wasn't alone. He was holding his phone to his ear, his face the color of old milk. His mother, Helen, was on the other end. I could hear her voice through the speaker. Not the words, just the tone. That sharp, serrated edge she always used when she was about to cut me down. Mark walked into the kitchen, kissed me on the cheek like a robot programmed to perform affection, and then sat down at the table. He put his mother on speakerphone. He did this a lot. It was his way of proving to her that he wasn't hiding anything. Or maybe it was his way of proving to me that she came first. "Say it again, Mom," Mark said. He didn't look at me. Helen's voice crackled through the phone. "I said, that girl you married, she's lazy, Mark. I came over last week to drop off that casserole, and the living room was a mess. A mess. And she had the nerve to be sitting on the couch reading a book. A book while her house fell apart around her." I stopped stirring the gravy. My hand froze, the wooden spoon suspended in midair. A book. I had been reading a book because I had just finished cleaning the entire house, scrubbing the toilets, vacuuming the rugs, and ironing Mark's work shirts. I had sat down for 15 minutes. 15 minutes, Mark sighed. He didn't defend me, he just said, "Mom, you know how she is." How she is, how I am. My heart started to beat faster. A low, humming anger started to wake up in my chest. It had been sleeping for 3 years. 3 years of marriage. 3 years of Helen's comments. 3 years of Mark looking the other way. "And another thing," Helen continued, warming up now. "She loved an audience. That dress she wore to your cousin's wedding, too tight. Everyone was talking about it. I was embarrassed for you, Mark. You need to control your wife." Control? Your wife. Those 3 words hung in the air like smoke. Mark ran a hand through his hair. He looked tired, but not tired of his mother. Tired of me, like I was the burden he had to carry. "Mom, I'll talk to her." "You do that," Helen said, "because a son honors his mother. And you, Mark, have been letting that woman walk all over you. I raised you better." She hung up. The kitchen was silent except for the bubbling of the pot roast. I turned around. I looked at my husband. The man I had said, for better or for worse, to. The man I had supported through a job loss, through a surgery, through his father's funeral where Helen had cried on my shoulder and called me her angel. "Mark," I said. My voice was calm, too calm. "You didn't say a single word." He looked up at me confused. "About what?" "About the living room, about the dress, about me being lazy. You just sat there and let her call me a lazy, embarrassing failure." Mark blinked. Then he did the thing he always did. He sighed again, heavier this time, and said, "Sarah, that's just how Mom is. You know she doesn't mean it. She's just protective of me. You need to stop being so sensitive." Stop being so sensitive. I had heard that phrase so many times over 3 years that it had become the background music of my marriage. Every time Helen insulted my cooking, my cleaning, my job, my hair, my choice of friends, my family, Mark would say I was being sensitive. "I'm not being sensitive," I said. The spoon was still in my hand. I put it down gently. "She called me lazy. She said I embarrassed you. She told you to control me, and you said nothing. You actually said, you know how she is." "How who is, Mark? How your wife is, or how your victim is?" He stood up. He was taller than me. He used that sometimes. "Don't do this, Sarah. Don't make a fight out of nothing. Mom is 68 years old. She's lonely. Dad is gone. She just wants to feel important." "And what about me?" I asked. My voice cracked. I hated that it cracked. Don't I get to feel important in my own marriage? Don't I get a husband who defends me? Mark walked over to me. He put his hands on my shoulders. He looked into my eyes, and for a second I thought he was going to apologize. I thought he was going to wake up. He didn't. He said, "You are my wife, but she is my mother. And the Bible says honor thy father and mother. It doesn't say honor thy wife when she's being dramatic." That was the moment. That was the exact second the love I had for Mark turned into something cold and hard, like a river freezing over in winter. The surface looked the same, but underneath the current had died. I smiled, a small, tight smile. "Okay, Mark," I said. "You're right, I'm being dramatic. I'll go finish dinner." He kissed my forehead, a patronizing little peck. "That's my girl." He went into the living room to watch football. I stood in the kitchen, staring at the pot roast, and I started to plan. You see, I am not a stupid woman. I am a graphic designer. I work with patterns, details, hidden layers. I see things that other people miss. And over the past 3 years, while Helen was chipping away at my soul and Mark was pretending not to notice, I had been paying attention. I had been collecting things, not physical things, information. I knew that Mark had a secret bank account. I knew because I had found a statement in his jacket pocket when I was doing laundry last spring. He had hidden it well under a fake name, but the address was our address. The account had $40,000 in it, money we were supposed to be saving for a house down payment. I knew that Helen had been stealing from her late husband's retirement fund. Not a lot, just a few thousand here and there. But she had been hiding it from Mark's sister, who was the executor of the will. I knew because Helen had gotten drunk at Christmas 2 years ago and bragged to me about how she outsmarted everyone. I knew that Mark had been texting an old girlfriend. Not cheating, exactly, but the texts were flirtatious. "I miss your laugh. Remember that night at the lake?" Innocent enough to deny, but deep enough to hurt. I had seen the messages pop up on his phone when he left it on the kitchen counter. I knew all of this, and I had done nothing. Because I was a good wife, a trusting wife, a stupid wife, but not anymore. That night, while Mark snored next to me, I got out of bed at 2 a.m. I went to his office. I opened his laptop. He had a password, but I had watched him type it 100 times. It was his mother's birthday. Of course it was. I logged in. I didn't delete anything. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just copied. Files, emails, bank statements, text message backups. I copied everything onto a USB drive that looked like a key. I put the USB drive in my bra. I went back to bed. The next morning, I made Mark his coffee. I kissed him goodbye. I waved at Helen when she drove by to drop off a surprise, which was just an old casserole she had found in her freezer. I smiled. I was the perfect wife. And then I went to work. But I didn't go to my desk. I went to the conference room. I closed the door. I pulled out my personal phone and I made a call. The call was to a lawyer, but not a divorce lawyer. Not yet. Her name was Vanessa. She was a forensic accountant. She was also my best friend from college. We had lost touch for a few years, but when I ran into her at a coffee shop 6 months ago, she had given me her card. She had said, "If you ever need to find out where the money went, call me." I had laughed then. I wasn't laughing now. Vanessa answered on the second ring. "Sarah, it's early." "I know," I said. "I need you to look into someone for me." 2 people, actually, my husband and my mother-in-law. There was a pause. Then Vanessa said, "Are you okay?" "No," I said, "but I'm about to be." I told her everything. The secret account, the stolen retirement funds, the flirtatious texts, the years of emotional abuse, the way Mark had chosen his mother over me, again and again, until I felt like a ghost in my own home. Vanessa listened. She didn't interrupt. When I was done, she said one word. "Finally." "What do you mean, finally?" "Sarah, I've known you for 15 years. You are the strongest person I know. But that man and his mother have been chipping away at you since the honeymoon. I've been waiting for you to wake up. And now you have. Give me a week." She hung up. A week. That week was the longest of my life. I played my role perfectly. I cooked Mark's favorite meals. I laughed at his stupid jokes. I even went to Sunday dinner at Helen's house, where she spent 2 hours telling me how to properly fold a fitted sheet. I smiled and nodded. I thanked her for the advice. I called her the best mother-in-law a girl could ask for. She looked suspicious. She knew something was different, but she couldn't figure out what. Mark noticed nothing, because Mark had never really seen me. He saw a wife, a function, a warm body in his bed, and a pair of hands to wash his dishes. He didn't see the fire burning behind my eyes. On the 7th day, Vanessa called me at work. "I have everything," she said. Her voice was excited, the way a hunter gets excited when she spots the deer. "Sit down, Sarah." I sat down at my desk. My hands were shaking. "The secret account," Vanessa said. "It's not 40,000, it's 87,000. He's been siphoning money from your joint savings for 3 years. Every time you put money in for the house, he moved a portion to his private account. He told you the market was bad and you were losing value. That was a lie. The market was fine, he was stealing from you." I closed my eyes. $87,000. I had worked overtime. I had skipped vacations. I had worn the same winter coat for 4 years to save money, and he had been taking it. "That's not all," Vanessa continued. "The retirement fund. Helen didn't just steal a few thousand. She stole $140,000 from her husband's account. She forged her son's signature, not Mark's. Her other son, David is the executor. If he finds out, Helen goes to jail. She committed fraud." My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. "And the texts," I whispered. "The old girlfriend?" Vanessa laughed. It was a hard laugh. "Her name is Chloe, she's married. But she and Mark have been meeting for lunch twice a month for the past 2 years. I have credit card receipts from restaurants. I have parking garage tickets. I have a photograph of them holding hands outside a cafe in the city. It's not physical, Sarah, but it's an emotional affair. He's been telling her he loves her, and he's been telling her that you're a difficult wife." I felt the last piece of my heart turn to stone. "Send me everything," I said. "Already done," Vanessa said. "Check your email." I opened my email. There were 6 attachments. Bank statements, photographs, text message screenshots, forged signature copies, parking receipts, and a timeline. Vanessa had created a timeline of every lie, every theft, every betrayal. I printed everything. 3 copies, one for me, one for my lawyer, one for Mark. That night, I did something I had never done before. I didn't make dinner. I didn't do laundry. I didn't clean. I sat on the couch, wearing my favorite jeans and a sweater that Helen had once said made me look cheap, and I waited. Mark came home at 7. He was late. He smelled like perfume that wasn't mine. "Where's dinner?" he asked. No hello, no kiss, just an accusation. "Sit down, Mark," I said. My voice was calm, steady. I had practiced this in the mirror for an hour. He looked at me. For the first time, he really looked at me. He saw that I wasn't smiling. He saw that my hands were folded in my lap and there was a manila envelope on the coffee table. "What's going on?" he asked. He didn't sit. He stood by the door like he was ready to run. I said sit down. He sat. He sat on the edge of the armchair like a bird on a wire. I picked up the envelope. I opened it. I pulled out the first page. It was a bank statement. His secret bank statement. "Do you know what this is?" I asked. He went pale, not white. Pale, like the blood had drained out of his face and left a gray shadow. "Where did you get that?" he whispered. "I found it," I said. "In your jacket pocket. Last spring. You left it there when you came home from the bank. You were careless, Mark. You thought I was too stupid to look, but I looked." He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "Sarah, I can explain. That money was for a surprise. For you, I was going to buy you a car." I laughed. It was a cold, dead sound. "A car? $87,000 for a car? That's a very expensive car, Mark, especially since we don't have a garage. And especially since you told me the market was bad and we lost 40,000. You lied to me, you stole from me, you have been stealing from me for 3 years." He stood up, his face twisted, not into shame, into anger. "How dare you go through my things? That's an invasion of privacy. I'm the man of this house. I can do whatever I want with the money." "The money we both earned," I said quietly. "The money I worked 40 hours a week for. The money I put into our joint account for our future. You stole it, Mark. That's not an opinion, that's a fact." He grabbed the paper from my hand. He ripped it in half. "There, now it's gone, you have no proof." I smiled. I pulled out the second page, and the third, and the fourth, and the photograph of him holding Chloe's hand outside the cafe. He froze. "I have proof, Mark," I said. "I have all the proof, and I have a lawyer, and I have a forensic accountant, and I have a very good memory. I remember every single time your mother called me lazy, stupid, fat, ugly, worthless. And I remember every single time you sat there and said nothing. You defended her, Mark, every time. You chose her over me, and now you're going to find out what happens when you push a good woman too far. He was shaking now, his eyes were wide. What are you going to do? I'm going to tell you what's going to happen, I said. Tomorrow morning, I am filing for divorce. I am taking half of everything, including the $87,000 you stole. The court will make you pay it back, plus interest. I am also going to tell your sister, David, about the $140,000 your mother stole from your father's retirement fund. She is going to jail, Mark. Your mother is going to jail. He lunged at me. I didn't flinch. I had been waiting for this. I pulled out my phone. I had already dialed 9-1-1. I just had to press send. Touch me, I said, and I will add assault to the list. He stopped. His hands were in fists. His breath was hot and fast. He looked like a trapped animal. You're crazy, he spat. You're a crazy, vindictive bitch. Maybe, I said, but I'm a crazy, vindictive bitch with evidence, and you're a thief, and a liar, and a man who never deserved me. I pressed send on the phone. 911, what's your emergency? My husband is threatening me, I said. I need an officer to come to my home. He has been stealing from me, and he just lunged at me. Mark ran. He ran out the back door, into the dark yard, and disappeared into the night. I didn't chase him. I didn't cry. I sat down on the couch, folded my hands in my lap, and waited for the police. They arrived in 7 minutes. 2 officers. A man and a woman. The woman officer, Officer Martinez, sat next to me and asked me what happened. I told her everything. I showed her the papers. I showed her the photographs. I showed her the USB drive. She looked at her partner. They both looked at me with something like respect. Ma'am, Officer Martinez said, you are very brave. We will file a report. You should not stay here tonight. Do you have somewhere to go? I did. I had already packed a bag. It was in the trunk of my car. I had packed it 3 days ago. I went to Vanessa's house. She was waiting for me on the porch with a bottle of wine and a blanket. Is it done? She asked. It's just beginning, I said. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on Vanessa's couch and I watched the news, not for anything specific, just to feel normal, just to remind myself that the world kept spinning even when my world had ended. The next morning, I called a divorce lawyer. Her name was Patricia. She was 60 years old, had been divorced twice herself, and had a reputation for being a shark. I liked her immediately. You have a strong case, Patricia said, flipping through the papers. Emotional infidelity, financial infidelity, a secret bank account, a mother-in-law who is a criminal, and a husband who just fled the scene. This is the easiest case I've had all year. I don't want easy, I said. I want justice. Patricia looked at me over her glasses. Justice is expensive, Sarah. Are you sure? He stole $87,000 from me, I said. I think I can afford it, she smiled, a real smile. I like you, let's get to work. We filed the papers that afternoon. Mark was served with divorce papers at his mother's house. Helen answered the door. I wish I could have seen her face. I imagine it was the same color as her beige carpet. The next week was chaos. Mark called me 47 times. I didn't answer. He left voicemails that went from angry to sad to begging to threatening. I saved every single one. Evidence, Helen called me twice. The first time, she screamed at me for ruining her son's life. I hung up. The second time, she cried and begged me not to tell David about the money. I listened to her cry for 3 minutes. Then I said, you should have thought about that before you called me lazy, and I hung up. I told David. David was Mark's older brother. He was a good man. Quiet, fair. He had never liked the way Helen treated me, but he had never said anything because he didn't want to cause drama. When I sent him the evidence of the stolen retirement funds, he didn't get angry. He got sad. I trusted her, David said on the phone. His voice was heavy. She was my mother. I thought she was grieving. I didn't know she was stealing. Now you know, I said. What are you going to do? What I have to do, he said. He filed a police report the next day. Helen was arrested on a Thursday morning. The neighbors saw her being led out of her house in handcuffs. She was wearing her pink bathrobe and her slippers. The photograph ended up on the front page of the local newspaper. The headline said, "Grandmother charged with fraud." I cut out the article. I put it in a frame. I hung it on the wall of my new apartment. Yes, I had a new apartment. A small one bedroom. A kitchen that was barely big enough for a microwave, but it was mine. I paid for it with my own money. Not a penny of Mark's theft touched those walls. The divorce took 4 months. 4 long, exhausting, thrilling months. Mark tried to fight. He got a lawyer. A slimy man with a cheap suit who tried to make me look like a bitter, unstable woman. He brought up the fact that I had snooped through Mark's things. He tried to say that I had entrapped his client, but Patricia was better. Patricia was a shark in a pantsuit. She brought out the bank statements. She brought out the parking tickets. She brought out the text messages where Mark told Chloe that I was a boring wife who never put out. That last one hurt. I won't pretend it didn't. Reading those words, seeing my husband describe me to another woman as if I were a piece of furniture he was tired of, it was like being stabbed in the chest. But I didn't cry in the courtroom. I saved my tears for the shower, where no one could see them. The judge was a woman, Judge Harriet Bloom. She was in her 70s with white hair and sharp eyes. She listened to every word. She read every document. And when Mark's lawyer finished his pathetic closing argument, she looked at Mark with an expression of pure disgust. "Mr. Carter," she said, "you stole from your wife, you lied to her. You engaged in an emotional affair with another woman while your wife worked overtime to save for a home you never intended to buy. And you allowed your mother to systematically abuse your wife for years without saying a single word in her defense. You are not a victim, you are a perpetrator. I am granting Mrs. Carter the full divorce. I am ordering you to repay the $87,000 plus interest and legal fees. I am also ordering you to pay spousal support for 2 years. And I am recommending that the district attorney review your financial records for possible criminal charges." Mark's face crumpled. He looked like a little boy who had just been told there was no Santa Claus. He looked at me, his eyes were wet. "Sarah," he whispered, "please, I'm sorry." I looked at him. This man I had loved. This man I had cooked for, cleaned for, cried for, prayed for. I felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness, not even pity, just a vast, empty stillness. "I know you are," I said, "but sorry doesn't fix 3 years of betrayal. Sorry doesn't give me back my time. Sorry doesn't make your mother a good person. Sorry is just a word, Mark, and I'm done with words." I walked out of the courtroom. I didn't look back. Helen's trial came 3 months later. She pleaded guilty to reduced charges. She got 2 years of probation and had to pay back every cent of the stolen money. David didn't press for jail time. He said he couldn't send his own mother to prison. I understood. Family is complicated, but I also knew that Helen would never recover from the shame. Her church kicked her out. Her friends stopped returning her calls. She spent her days alone in her beige house, watching television and wondering where it all went wrong. I didn't feel bad for her, not even a little. As for me, I moved on. I started my own graphic design business. I bought a small house with a garden. I planted roses. I adopted a dog, a golden retriever mix named Justice. He sleeps at the foot of my bed and never steals my money. I still think about Mark sometimes. Not with love, with curiosity. I wonder if he ever looks back and realizes what he lost. I wonder if he ever thinks about the pot roast he never ate, the wife he never defended, the life he threw away for a mother who saw him as a shield and a girlfriend who dropped him the second the divorce was final. Chloe left him, by the way. As soon as the story hit the news, she blocked his number and moved to another state. I heard she changed her name. I don't blame her. Nobody wants to be the other woman in a story this ugly. Mark lives in a studio apartment now. He works a job he hates. He sends me the spousal support checks on time, every month. I cash them without a second thought. I use the money to buy dog food and rose bushes. And Helen. She tried to call me once, a year after the divorce. I let it go to voicemail. She left a message. Her voice was small and old. She said, "Sarah, I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you. I just loved my son too much." I deleted the message. I didn't reply, because the truth is she didn't love her son too much. She loved herself too much. She loved control. She loved being the most important woman in his life. And she destroyed his marriage to prove it. But here is the thing about revenge. It's not about getting even. It's about getting free. I am free. I am free of Mark's lies. I am free of Helen's cruelty. I am free of the pot roast dinners and the folded laundry and the constant, grinding feeling of being less than. I am free. And that is the best revenge of all. So if you are listening to my story, and you are in a marriage where your husband defends his mother over you, where he lets her tear you down while he stands in silence, where he steals your money and your time and your dignity, hear me now. You are not crazy, you are not sensitive, you are not the problem, you are a woman who deserves to be defended. You deserve a partner who chooses you every single time without hesitation. And if he won't choose you, then you need to choose yourself. Pack your bag, copy the files, call the lawyer, and then sit back and watch what happens when a good woman finally stops being nice. Because I promise you, it is a beautiful thing to see. My name is Sarah, and I won.